10. Zucchini. In 2015, an elderly German couple received some homegrown zucchini from their neighbor. Ludwig and used the squash to prepare stew for dinner, though it ended up tasting quite bitter. The couple fell ill that night, suffering from severe gastrointestinal symptoms. At the hospital, Inge and Ludwig were diagnosed with severe poisoning. It resulted from cucurbitacin, a toxic substance that can occur in plants of the Cucurbitaceae family, which includes pumpkins, melons, and squash. The bitter taste of the stew was an indicator that the toxin was present. Ludwig had cleared his plate and ingested much more of the toxin, so medics were unable to save him. 9. Red chilies. Chef Andrew Lee from Edlington, England, died after eating chili. Lee prepares tomato sauce made of red peppers grown in his father's garden. That night, Lee complained about feeling uncomfortable and itching before bed. The next morning, he was found to have no reaction on the floor. It seems like he had a heart attack. When the medical staff could not revive him, he was sentenced to death at the scene. The ambiguity shows that he had no previous heart problems. The scientists suspected that Lee had an overwhelming allergic reaction based on the itch that he had experienced. Even if Lee had eaten chili before without the bad effects, swallowing such a large amount could have caused an allergic reaction that was smaller in quantity. Damage to Lee's stomach lining will expose your bloodstream to chemicals, which can cause allergic reactions. A severe allergic reaction can lead to anaphylaxis, an extremely dangerous condition that needs immediate treatment. When untreated, anaphylaxis can lead to fatal complications, including brain damage and heart failure. 8. Spinach. Famously the source of Popeye's bulging muscles, spinach has long been recommended as a nutritional powerhouse. But spinach is also to blame for the deadliest foodborne disease outbreak from leafy vegetables that has ever been reported. In 2006, an outbreak of E. coli led to almost 200 laboratory-confirmed illnesses, half of which resulted in hospitalization. 31 people developed kidney failure, and at least 3 cases linked to the outbreak resulted in death. Among the victims were an elderly woman from Wisconsin, a toddler from Idaho, and an elderly woman from Nebraska. A woman in Maryland also died after consuming raw spinach, but there was not enough evidence to link her death to the outbreak. The source of the outbreak was identified as fresh-bagged spinach, so Popeye's canned greens were not affected. 7. Peas. In 1931, Edward and Delphine Hine held an annual winter dinner party for friends and family on a farm near Grafton, North Dakota. Delphine serves a salad mixed with peas that she has self-canned. During the day, 12 people were sick and died. Edward and Delphine, as well as 3 of their 6 children, were among the victims. The exactness determines that death is due to canned peas at home. They're contaminated by toxins that cause botulism. Symptoms include blurred vision and difficulty swallowing or speaking. No treatment, poisoning can lead to death. All 12 people died just after the dinner party consumed legume salad. Another guest dropped peas before eating a sick salad and died a week later, bringing the total to 13. 6. Corn. The highest risk for grains harvest, with 26 deaths, was in 2010. 2 deaths in 2010 occurred at a commercial grain complex in Mount Carroll, Illinois. The 14-year-old white bread was put into a storage tower to loosen corn kernel crushed. Workers often have to walk along the top of the corn when they use the bar to pull the pieces that have been baked off the wall. Work inside the cereal bucket when another worker opens 2 floor holes designed to accelerate flow of corn. This resulted in a cascade that pulled Wyatt under a nuclear top. He screamed when he came down, causing 19-year-old Alejandro Pacas to hurry and try to help him. Alejandro was also submerged by corn, and both teens died in seconds. A third worker, Will Piper, close friend of Alejandro 20, tries to help and also gets stuck. Fortunately, Will can keep his head on the corn. It took nearly 12 hours for 300 rescue workers to release him. Buried in corn produces a great deal of pressure on the chest and membranes of the person, which cannot be inhaled or exhaled. 5. Cucumbers. A 2015 outbreak of salmonella in cucumbers infected a total of 907 people in 40 states across the country. Over 200 people were hospitalized, and 4 deaths were attributed to the outbreak. Slicer cucumbers imported from Baja, Mexico and distributed by Andrew and Williamson Fresh Produce of San Diego, California, were identified as the source of the contamination. Andrew and Williamson supplied the tainted cucumbers to retail and wholesale companies in 22 states, which explains why the outbreak was so widespread. People infected with salmonella typically develop fever, diarrhea, and abdominal cramps shortly after exposure to the bacteria. Symptoms usually last 4 to 7 days, and most people recover without treatment. However, in severe cases of diarrhea, the salmonella infection can spread from the intestines to the bloodstream. These cases require hospitalization and prompt treatment with antibiotics to avoid death. 4. Potatoes. Potatoes contain highly toxic alkaloids that can be toxic to solanine when eaten. Everyone is warned about eating any kind of green potato. This indicates that the presence of toxins can cause moderate to severe gastrointestinal symptoms. In some cases, solanine poisoning can lead to coma or death. A 42-year-old college professor went down to the basement garage in the afternoon. When he did not appear again, his wife checked him, not knowing he had fainted because of the poisonous odor emanating from a potato bag. She was also overwhelmed by the toxic environment and never returned. In a dead pursuit, their sons and grandparents followed in their footsteps, encountering the same fate. At the time of help, all 4 family members were poisoned by poisonous gases and died. 3. Lettuce. In early 2007, an Oklahoma couple made a routine trip in their semi-trailer to pick up supplies from a Dole plant in Yuma, Arizona. Sheila K. Ross exited the truck to get some paperwork but never returned. The Yuma police searched the area but found no sign of Ross. 3 days later, her body was discovered in a trailer that was making a lettuce delivery to a Hy-Vee grocery store in Sheridan, Iowa. The lettuce crushed her to death. Authorities couldn't determine how Ross ended up in the trailer in the first place, but the incident was ruled an accident. There were no indications of foul play by anyone or anything other than the lettuce. 2. Frozen vegetables. Frozen vegetables produced by CRF Frozen Foods of Pasco, Washington, were identified as a likely source of a listeria outbreak that occurred across 4 different states. Although the number of people infected was much lower than other outbreaks, all 9 identified cases resulted in hospitalization. Of those, 1 Connecticut resident died from listeriosis. 2 other patients died in Maryland and Washington as well, but their deaths were not attributed to the bacterial infection. The long-term storage of frozen foods allowed the listeria outbreak to span over a number of years. Listeria is much less common than salmonella or E. coli, but it is the most lethal foodborne pathogen. A healthy immune system can typically fight off an infection from listeria. But if the bacteria goes into the bloodstream and causes listeriosis, 1 in 5 cases results in death. 1. Canned vegetables. In summer 2015, Linda Clarine Jackson of Lake Los Angeles, California, was arrested for murder and faced allegations that she used canned foods as a deadly weapon. Jackson was accused of fatally beating her boyfriend, David Ruiz, with cans of peas, carrots, and chicken broth. Police had been called on reports of a man who was injured and bleeding. They found Ruiz unresponsive, and he was pronounced dead at the scene. Authorities said Jackson's motive was unclear. If convicted, she faced life in prison for her canned food killing. But her sentence has already been completed. On June 8, 2017, she died of natural causes behind bars while awaiting trial.